And welcome to another all brand new episode of This Is Metal with Joe Lawson. Joe, you and I last time were talking about it'd be a real fun idea to do a episode on Queensryche. We've done one in the past, kind of on the history of the band, but I thought it'd be real fun to kind of delve a little into the Todd LaToro era of the band because you and a couple other people have kind of turned me on to this. I'll be real honest with you. Maybe because of the time I grew up, in the 80s. The Jeff Tate era, it was kind of an era for me. That's the era I grew up on anyways. And it's interesting because when I announced we were going to be doing this show today, I kind of put it up on our Facebook page this morning, and somebody was kind of saying the same thing, and I was telling them, we're going to do a show on, the latest Queensryche album tonight because my co-host Joe Lawson and a couple other people kind of turned me on to the Todd LaToro era of the band, and I kind of agree with what this other guy was saying, David Clares, who oftentimes posts on our page. I say, David, it's just I think the time we grew up, but Todd LaToro's era of Queensryche, it may be a little different from what we grew up on, but that doesn't mean it's bad,
Yeah. I mean, bands go through lineup changes and things happen, and some people they're just comfortable and they're in love with the idea.
Yeah.
Of the bands and the music they grew up with, and the sound and the fingerprint, and that is the vocalist to a large degree for most bands. And that's why it's so tricky for most bands to replace a singer, because it's such a temperamental thing. And some people embrace it, and some people just, they're stuck in what they grew up in, what they like, and that's it. No matter how good a singer that replaces them, it doesn't matter. That unique voice that made that band sound the way they did, and it was such an instrumental part of their chemistry. Some people can't look past that. Just, it is what it is.
With this show,
I think Todd is one of those guys that stepped into a band like Queensryche, and not only has he put his own stamp or his own fingerprint on the trademark that is known as Queensryche, he does a fantastic job of doing the old school stuff that Jeff can't even sing anymore.
Yeah, and what's very interesting about this is, I think, most people that's your age and my age, Joe, that grew up with the original Queensryche, the very interesting thing, up until the time they split with Jeff Tate, a lot of people are foolishly under the impression because a group of guys play in a band together that they're all the best of friends. And for, the number of years when the band's kind of trying to, make it big and break out in a big way, they've all kind of got that same goal of trying to make the band break out in a huge way. They all got that common goal, but of course, when a band like Queensryche goes through a kind of a split like they did with Jeff Tate, you all of a sudden kind of realize, okay, maybe these guys were just, it's kind of like guys you just work with. Maybe they weren't really the best of friends. We find out, sadly, but that's the way it is,
Business is business, and I think most musicians that are even getting close to that level understand that, or if not, they're about to real quick. And they're friends as long as everything's going good, and they're brothers and everything. And all it takes is,
one
little thing to get out of place, or one little thing to go wrong or crooked, or one person to have a hard time or bad troubles with something, and the ship starts rocking. That's just the way that it is. And,
And with all that being said,
it's tough to get through. It's tough for a band to survive those pitfalls and those difficulties, and Queensryche is not an exception to any band that has kind of had to go through lineup changes and difficult times. Everybody does it in some format or another in a professional environment, when you're in a band. But I think that let's get more specific with this album.
Yes.
One thing I really liked about this album is, in my opinion, from what I've heard since Todd's joined the band, this is the strongest album, the strongest release that they've done yet. I dare say that this album to me, it ranks up there with Operation Mindcrime and Empire. It's that good.
You know, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because in listening and doing my homework for this episode tonight, I was listening to the new album last night, and that's exactly the thought I had. Okay, I will say this about the Todd LaTorre era of the band. The first two albums he did with the band, they were almost a lot more of a full-on metal band than they ever were before. Queensryche, what used to be considered a progressive band in the sense that they had elements of hard rock, but they had elements of metal, they had elements of progressive stuff. There's a little bit of everything. And then I noticed when listening to this latest album, which, just to be more specific so people know what we're talking about, the latest album, which came out last November, is called Digital Noise Alliance. And in listening to all the album, what I found interesting, this is his third album with Queensryche, is while there's definitely metal elements to this album, it's not such a full-blown on metal force. And I do agree with you. A lot of these songs to me sounded, it had kind of elements of that classic Queensryche sound, more towards like something that could have, and it's funny you said that, because I wrote that down last night, is that some of these songs had that classic Queensryche sound, sounded like stuff that could have been on either Empire or Operation Mindcrime. Now, I don't know if it's because those are like my two favorite Queensryche albums, or if I'm thinking kind of a lot of these songs on this new album, like on Empire or Operation Mindcrime, a lot of these songs I think could have been, that they could be played on the radio.
Oh, yeah. They definitely have a commercial-friendly sound to them in a good way, not a gay way.
Oh, yeah.
So let me state that first.
Sure.
Second, musically, when I listened to this, it kind of reminded me of, I agree, it definitely has a classic Queensryche feel to it. It does. You know it's Queensryche. But it also kind of has this, like, Fates Warning Iron Maiden tone to it. With the harmonies and the melodies and stuff, and Todd's voice even a little bit. Also something that I noticed with this record is, in my opinion, again, this record, Todd is full-blown Todd. He doesn't sound like Todd trying to sound like Jeff Tate. Yeah. He doesn't sound like he's trying to appease the Jeff Tate fans. He very much sounds like his own full, mature, professional voice in this album. And I love that. I think he did an outstanding job on the vocals. The production on this record is very, very good. I didn't get a chance to see who produced the album, but whoever did, they did a very good job. It's great songwriting, great melodies, great hooks, great everything that you would expect in a classic Queensryche release and more. Like you said, it has a lot of good pumping, driving metal
elements,
songs and elements to it, but it also has some of that progressive feel. Some of the keyboards done in a tasteful way. Things that you would expect to hear in a Queensryche record, definitely.
Yeah, and I don't know how long he's been with the band now. I know it's been a number of years, because this is the third album he's done with the band, so long enough to do 3 albums. And I think on the last 2 albums, it really kind of worked. They were trying to find their way. Like I imagine when you go in to do the very first, not just the very first album of Todd LaTorre, but very first album you've ever had a new singer in Queensryche, there's got to be some nervousness, especially on Todd LaTorre's part. Are the fans going to accept me? I think they went and did the first album with Todd, and they got a positive response. Went on tour, got a positive response. Okay, that worked. Okay, they do album number 2, kind of the same thing. Oh wow, the fans still like what we're doing. And I think too, on the first 2 albums, Todd LaTorre probably had I don't want to come in and try to be like a Jeff Tate clone. I want to do my own thing. I want to put my stamp on it. Like you said, I think by the 3rd album here, which is a Digital Noise Alliance, I think maybe he's a lot more comfortable with his place in the band. He's a lot more comfortable to kind of maybe bring song ideas into the band. Maybe he's allowed to do that more. I don't know, but it sounds definitely like there's much more of a comfort level here.
Yes. It sounds very natural. It doesn't sound forced. The songwriting's great. Everything flows. Everything is a little chock full and loaded with melodies and harmonies, and very emotional and passionate. And driving at times. Just a very good blend of songs. A very good, solid album. Like I said, I dare say it's borderline masterpiece.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a very solid album.
I mean, I dare say that this is the most solid Queensryche album with Todd Latour. I like some of the stuff on the other two, but I do think with the first two, there's a lot more of a real heavy metal element to what they were doing. I think a lot of that stuff was a lot closer maybe to what he was doing in Crimson Glory. Whereas there's more of a classic Queensryche element to this album. It's, I don't want to say commercial like you said, but it's kind of got that, kind of MTV friendly stuff like On Empire, Operation Mindcrime. I think this album very well could have came after either one of those and would have bookended those albums quite nicely.
Yes, yeah, I think it's more than earned its place in Queensryche's catalog of masterpieces. Like I said, I really do rate it up there with Empire and Operation Mindcrime. So if you're not familiar with it, if you haven't heard it, do yourself a huge favor and go check out Queensryche Digital Noise Alliance. Really good album. And I love the artwork, by the way. Did you notice in the Queensryche logo they got the DNA symbol intertwined with it?
I didn't really notice. I had to go back and look at that, but I thought
that was kind of cool.
And and here's the other thing. Let's get into some of the songs I listen to. Okay, to be a little more specific, the opening track, which is called In Extremis, I felt it's a great track, great way to open the album off with. It's kind of what I call metal with melody, like you said. The number 2 song, Chapters, it's not quite metal, closer to hard rock, with nice melody. A lot of this stuff has great melody, a radio hit to my ear. So again, and I think it's interesting because Todd Latour has now been with the band long enough that it's interesting. I don't want to say people have forgotten about Jeff Tate, but it's not like people are clamoring for a Queensryche reunion with Jeff Tate. I think a lot of people know that. Probably pretty good chance that's never going to happen, and I think fans are just kind of really willing to accept the band in its current format.
Yeah, I think that they've done a successful job of it. I think that there's a lot of people out there that really support Queensryche. They support Todd. And there's probably people out there, I'd like to think, that are like me, who I'm not in the band. I'm not related to anybody in the band. I don't care about what their personal drama or their beefs are with each other, or who did to each other. I like Jeff Tate's voice. I love Jeff Tate's voice. I love what he does. I'll always be a fan of him. But that doesn't mean I can't be a fan of Queensryche.
Sure. I mean, it's very much like when Van Halen split with David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar came in the band. Two totally kind of different bands, but to me, it's still kind of part of the whole Van Halen story. I liked it all, Not everybody did. Each guy kind of brought some different aspect to the Van Halen story, if you will. But I got to tell people listening to this, Joe. Part of what we hope to accomplish with our This Is Metal show is not only maybe to turn ourselves on to new stuff, but to kind of maybe make people open their ears a little. So, like I said at the beginning of this tonight, maybe because of my age and I grew up with the original lineup, that'll always kind of be my favorite. But you and a couple other people told me, hey, you should listen to stuff they've done with Todd Latour. It's not half bad. I think you'll like it. And it's not Jeff Tate, but I'm the type of person, before I just give a blanket statement, I don't like this because they got a new singer, I'm going to at least listen to a song or two, and then I will, then I can say I like it or I don't like it. Give it a fair chance. That's what I ask people. You don't have to like this because we're sitting here and talking about how great we think it is. But I think at least open your ears first and give it a listen, and then you can say if you like it or not.
Yeah, and a lot of this goes with just people's level of maturity and development.
Yeah.
We associate music with parts of our lives.
Yeah.
Memories, whether it's losing your virginity or partying with your friends, or your graduation, or whatever memories that trigger happy times and different times in your life. Music is there for a lot of our lives, so it's a huge part of us. So it's reasonable to attach yourself more or less to that memory, and I think some people, that's exactly what they do. Jeff Tate was a part of that, or Vince Neil was a part of that, and it's not Motley Crue without Vince Neil. It's not Queensryche without Jeff Tate, and it's not Judas Priest without this guy or that guy. Well, yeah, it is, but it's just different, because people split up and went their separate ways, just like sometimes in a marriage it doesn't work out and they go their separate ways. It doesn't mean that they have to hate each other, or that their mutual friends have to pick a side.
I mean, it's like if somebody offered me up, hey, I got a free ticket to go see Motley Crue. I mean, you got a certain amount of a certain percent of fans that might be like, well, I don't want to go see Motley Crue if Mick Mars isn't with them. Okay, that's your choice. But I think me personally, I can dig what John 5 does. I've been a fan of what he's done outside of Motley Crue. So, hey, I got a free ticket. I'm willing to go experience it. Yeah, why not? Very much like, also Motley Crue. I still am a huge fan of original lineup. Classic lineup. Probably always be my favorite lineup. But you know what? Same thing when John Corabi joined the band. I thought, who the hell are we going to get to replace Vince Neil? But you know what? I'll tell you. Because of that one album he did with Motley Crue, John Corabi has really ever since been one of my all-time favorite singers. Every time he's got something coming out, I get it. I know I'm going to love it. And again, that's just because of that one experience. If he'd never done that album with Motley Crue, I might not know who the hell John Corabi is. There's a good percentage of metal fans out there who might not either, But who knows? I'm thankful that I have that experience.
Right. I'm one of the kids that grew up and knew who John Corabi was way before Motley Crue, which I feel kind of lucky and fortunate, walking into a music store in Ohio and taking a chance on a cassette tape that said The Scream on it that just came out.
Again,
and I loved it. I still have that on cassette.
That's one of those go-to albums still all these years later, which is amazing because that was recently re-released, I think, last year on vinyl or something. And and people are just clamoring to it. And all these years later, it's kind of interesting that that's like the one thing he did with The Scream, and people are still clamoring to get their hands on it all these years later.
But it goes to the point that you made just a minute ago about him releasing an album with a big band like Motley Crue. That's what spawned all of that. So people, who's this John Corabi guy? So they started looking into it, and all these people that never heard The Scream before listening to this music going, "This is great." No shit, it is.
That's why I laugh when I hear Nikki Sixx talk about, well, he had to teach Corabi how to write a song, and I'm like, Nikki, I guess, also forgets that when Motley Crue was through John Corabi, he was the one that recommended to Bruce Gill, okay, you and John should get together. Now, why would you recommend somebody if you didn't think they could write a song even?
Right, yeah. He was good. He was good enough for your band in '94, but now he's not.
Yeah, and here's another song off the new album that I was kind of impressed with. This is track 3. It's called Lost in Sorrow. And this is funny that you said all this stuff you're talking about at the top of show, Joe, because this is exactly what I wrote down on my paper last night. It says, Lost in Sorrow sounds like a classic 80s Queensryche track from Empire or Operation Mindcrime.
Yeah, it does, and some of the things that I like about some of the lyrical content, I haven't had enough time to really sit down and delve into things, but I kind of, hear things on the surface, and I hear different biblical passages, and for me, being a Christian, that's awesome. So I like hearing stuff like that with a positive message, and a lot of Queensryche songs have a positive message of some fashion, So it's good to hear that they've carried that with them, into the modern day Queensryche of now.
Yeah, and then track 5, which is called Behind the Walls. To me, this is what I wrote down: the sound of modern day Queensryche. So again, we've been talking about, it's kind of got that classic Queensryche sound. Then they got songs like this that kind of sounds like more modern of what they're doing now. And it's very interesting. I think it's another important thing to note is since Todd Latour's been in the band, I think the drummer, Scott Rockenfield, he did the first album that Todd did with the band. And since then, he's kind of been... he's kind of out of the band from what I know. There's a lawsuit going on between Scott Rockenfield and the other guys. And so on the last two albums, including the new one here we're talking about, in addition to doing the lead vocals, Todd Latour, who is also apparently a drummer, he's done the drums on the last two Queensryche albums as well.
I knew that. I knew on one of them he did. I didn't know that he did on the last two. I believe this record they got a full-time drummer that actually did the drums.
Maybe you're right.
On the record, right? Or did Todd do the drums on this record?
I don't know for a fact. For some reason, I thought I read that, but I do know they have this other guy, Casey, that's been the touring drummer since Scott's been out of the band. So quite possibly is him, but I know for sure on the last album he did the drums, which I thought was kind of impressive because I guess not very impressive that he can play the drums, but the fact that this guy is a great lead singer, he can play the drums well enough that the guys in the band say, well, rather than go out and find another drummer, we'll just have the lead singer do the drum tracks. And I guess in a way, when you do that, it also saves a little bit of money, so there's a financial aspect of that. But I know a lot of the great frontmen that we grew up on, like Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, people don't think of him as a drummer, but I know when he was first starting out, he started out on the drums, and then he morphed into the frontman that he is today. And then it's very much like I was reading the same thing about Janie Lane of Warren. He started out as a drummer, and then he was the one in the band that had the best singing voice, so he moved up front.
You know who else you can add to that list? Ronnie Monroe, former Metal Church vocalist. He started off playing the drums too.
I wasn't aware of that. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll have to ask him about that because, a while back I was supposed to do an interview with him, but he's been on tour, and so he's had to reschedule a couple times. So that's an interview I'm still trying to, get scheduled in. But he's promised me that when he has some downtime, we're going to do it.
Tell him next time you talk to him, whatever way it is, tell him that little brother Joe said to get it done.
I will do that. And while we're on the subject of we mentioned the fact that Todd Latour was in Crimson Glory. Another guy that sang in Crimson Glory is a mutual friend of ours, is Wade Black, that I've interviewed a number of times, and he's a super cool guy.
Yeah, he is. Wade's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep, Wade's another one of those guys that's just got a trademark voice. As soon as you hear him, you know that that's his voice.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he's one of those guys, and I mean he can definitely he's got like I think Seven Witches and Crimson Glory on his resume, but I love the fact that he never stops making music. He's always doing something.
Oh yeah, and that's another good point to bring up about Queensryche. There's a lot of bands that just rest on their hits and their past glories. Queensryche's moving on, man. So I give them a lot of credit just for trying to.
I think the only other, well, I can't really say, but Queensryche is kind of it's been an amazing story, I think, because and I'm guilty of this myself. A lot of people, when it was announced that they were splitting with Jeff Tate, initially a lot of people thought, who are they going to get to replace Jeff Tate? But it's interesting, once Todd Latour was in the band, not only were fans really accepting of it, but I think there's a good portion of those hardcore original Queensryche fans that I don't know if it's fair to say have forgotten about Jeff Tate. Jeff Tate's done other things since leaving Queensryche, but I don't think any of them has been as successful as what he did while he was inside of Queensryche. And I don't know why, but it seems like a lot of the Queensryche fans have kind of turned their back on him, which is kind of unique since he's the original singer,
Well, there's a number of reasons for that.
Yeah.
And, this is just my observation.
Yeah.
But part of the reason is the drama that surrounded
his
the
exit.
Departure of Jeff Tate and him spitting on the drummer and some of the little temper tantrums that he threw and the way he acted and conducted himself kind of did not help him in that situation for sure. Yeah. And then furthermore, people are pretty brutal, man. when you're young and you're on top of it and you're a killer singer,
Yeah.
Everybody's your friend and everybody thinks the world of you and you're amazing, right?
Yeah.
And you start getting older and your voice changes and you don't sound the same. You're not able to deliver those same performances the way that you did. You're not the same person. You're an older man now, and some people are pretty unforgiving of that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
And Jeff is no exception to that. I mean, he keeps himself in shape, and he's still got a great voice. He does, but I mean, he's not the same Jeff Tate you heard in the '80s. He's just not.
Yeah.
And none of those singers are. Rob Halford, he's another great example. One of my all-time favorite singers. I'll love him forever. But he's not the same Rob Halford as he was on the Painkiller album.
Oh, sure. And I don't know if you know this about Jeff Tate, but he had to take a few months off recently because he recently went through open heart surgery, and he's been recovering from that. But apparently,
oh wow, I did not know that. That's terrible.
All signs are that he's going to fully recover. So we're happy.
So that's great.
We're happy about that. But the interesting thing too, I think part of the reason his career maybe has taken a turn is immediately following the lawsuit, they came to a settlement which initially you kind of think, okay, Jeff Tate initially looks from the outside, you might think Jeff Tate, won the mother lode because his band was called Operation Mindcrime, and Operation Mindcrime, which I think was their biggest selling album to date. The band agreed to let him, okay, you can call your band Operation Mindcrime. We'll allow you to go out and play all the material from Operation Mindcrime, but we're gonna play all the other stuff. And so like Queensryche was willing not to play a lot of it, play Operation Mindcrime in its entirety like they used to, allow him to do that. And you think, wow, that's kind of a mistake, but it doesn't seem to have affected them.
Yeah, I mean, Queensryche has bounced back fantastically, I think. Jeff Tate, not quite as much. I mean, I don't follow up with him enough to be honest with you. But you're right. He hasn't had the success, I don't think, that Queensryche has had.
In fact, Queensryche, I think, I dare say, and probably more so in Todd Latour's case, is in a real great place because could you imagine being a guy like Todd Latour? You leave Crimson Glory, and you get this great offer to join this legendary band like Queensryche, and then the fans aren't, let's say, accepting, and then there's that pressure. Okay, well, maybe from the management, maybe from a record label, it's not working with Todd. You guys got to dump him and get back with Jeff. I think Todd Latour's in a great place in the sense that I don't think he's got that fear. I think, in fact, they're doing so good with Todd Latour. Jeff Tate might be one begging to come back, if you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And nothing against Jeff Tate, because I love what he does. But then again, I think he's made a few bad, I guess you could say, career decisions. I mean, I like the 3 albums he did after Queensryche with the band Operation Mindcrime, but then he made the decision, okay, it's just going to be a trilogy, that we're just going to do those 3 albums and we're going to call it something else. And so at that point, I don't know why you just don't say, okay, Jeff Tate's going to go solo. But I don't know what he's going to do next. Like I said, he's been recovering from open. So that's kind of that's the big question: is he just going to continue to tour like he's been doing and play a lot of the old Queensryche stuff, or is he like a lot of people, he may be ready to tie it down, wrap it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of that is dictated just by finances.
Yeah.
I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what kind of financial situation he's in.
Yeah, and so I had real fun, when I thought, because I got the idea. I seen something about Queensryche with Todd Latour on Facebook or something about a week ago. I can't remember what it was, but I thought the last Queensryche album came out last November. I haven't really heard anything.
Yeah, take it from us, from Jason and myself.
Yeah.
If you're a Jeff Tate fan, we both are. We both grew up at the same time. We both grew up loving that era, and we understand that perspective. give this a chance. If you haven't really gave Todd a chance, listen to this album and then go back and check out the other two albums that Todd sang on. You won't regret it.
And I think if you go into it willing to open your ears and give it a fair chance, you're going to go away at least liking a few of the songs. I mean, and this is the thing. Like I haven't bought this album, but what's nice is you can go on YouTube. I'll be real honest, Joe. Like I may have shared this with you before, but I'm an old school guy, maybe because of the time we grew up in, but I'd much rather have a physical CD or something to hold in my hand and look at the beautiful artwork and see who played on the album. But I've embraced YouTube a little bit in the sense that it's nice, like doing a show like this. If I don't have the album, I can go on a YouTube. I can listen. I can check it out, and that's what I urge people to do. If you say, "Oh well, I want to listen to it first before I buy it," that's the best thing you can do. Go on YouTube. You can check out the entire album. You just type in the name of the album. Digital Noise Alliance. Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. But I encourage people, if you like it, go support your band and buy the album. When they come to your town, go see it live. Because here's the thing. I think if I had a chance to see Queensryche with Todd Latour and they came to my town, I think I would go see it now because you got 3 albums worth of stuff with Todd, and I think that's the hardest thing Queensryche has to worry about now. Okay, we got 3 albums with Todd. How do we go about doing an equal number of the classic stuff with the Todd Latour stuff?
Well, yeah, that's it. It's a great
problem to have.
Live, they're really great. Yeah, live. I've seen them with Scorpions, and Queensryche was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and what's interesting is they recently did this killer tour across America with Queensryche, Marty Friedman, and this other band, Trauma. I don't know if you've ever heard of the band Trauma. I'll get the name of the album. They got a new album that just came out late last year. And this is, for anybody who doesn't know, this is Cliff Burton's pre-Metallica band. And I had a chance to interview both the drummer and the guitar player who are in the band now. And I love the fact that they were kind of big when Cliff Burton wasn't, not huge, because like I said, it's pre-Metallica band, but this is this band that's been part of the Bay Area metal scene all these years, and finally they're getting some attention. I was told that when Queensryche was putting the tour together, they were looking at different acts, and and this band was up for consideration, and they got the opening gig. Could you imagine a band that's been around that long finally kind of just getting this kind of attention? Yeah,
that's pretty amazing. That's what I would say.
In fact, that's maybe a possible future episode. I think, Joe. And before I let you go, Joe, I want to ask you for your ideas on some future episodes. I know we've done a few shows like on Ronnie James Dio and Black Sabbath from the Dio era. Were you much of a Sabbath fan from the Ozzy era?
Of who?
Well, the original Black Sabbath with Ozzy.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, I loved what they did with what's the other guy, Tony?
Tony Martin, yeah. Yeah.
I love some of the stuff he did too. I thought that was good. I think it'd be good to do another episode on Anthrax as well. I recently have discovered how awesome the album For All Kings Anthrax is, and it's got me going back and checking out some of their other more recent albums as well. And I think, have you heard of a band called Tigers of Pantang?
Yeah, that's another. I'm aware of the band. I've heard the name for years.
Yeah, I think I've seen that they put something new out. I gotta go back and try and find it again.
I'm gonna get the name of a new album, but yeah, you're right. I think it just came out because I seen something on that. But maybe that's a possible future episode too, Joe. Because I'll tell you why. Tigers of Pantang is one of those bands. They've been around for years. As we sit here, I cannot name a single song, but I would like to educate myself. Maybe you'd like to do the same.
Me too. Yes.
It's a band that's been around for years. I think they're much bigger.
Let's make it a This Is Metal mission.
Okay, so that could be one of the next couple episodes. But for some reason, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I think John Sykes might have been in the band at one point, maybe before White Snakes. Cool. I had heard something like that. So that is a band, if for no other reason, just because to educate myself, because I know they're much more popular in Europe, but they're considered a classic, kind of hard rock band. They've been around for years. I don't know if it's the same lineup, but they've been around.
Or not, but yeah, let's both do that for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joe. So you and I were also talking about maybe doing one on because it's the 40th anniversary of Lita Ford's debut solo album, and you were going to say maybe check it out, and we were thinking about doing that, but maybe in 2 weeks when we do this, why don't we do the one on the Anthrax album, since you seem to be so excited about that? Yeah,
that sounds great, man.
And you said that was for. I love it. You said that was for All Kings. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, and for Anthrax, for All Kings.
And another thing I'll send you the information on while we're talking Anthrax is, I'm sure you can look it up on Facebook, but apparently in his downtime from Anthrax, Joey Belladonna has, of all things, if you can believe it, a Journey tribute band.
Yes, I did know that. Yeah, I met Joey Belladonna when he came here solo, and it was weird because it was like there was a lot of people that didn't even know who this guy was. I'm like, holy shit, this is the fucking singer from Anthrax.
Yeah. Now let me ask you.
And there was a lot of people that just didn't know who he was. They just thought he was a good singer from some like local band or something. So I actually got to hang out with him for a while and talk to him, and I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. Over half these people don't even fucking know who he is.
Was that during the time that he was out of Anthrax, or while he was still in Anthrax?
I don't. I think I think he was not in Anthrax at the time.
Interesting.
So maybe that's why, I don't know.
And it was
a weird time. It was a weird era. Yeah, but like half the people there just didn't even. It was like they didn't even know who he was. You gotta be shitting me.
Here's a final question for tonight, Joe. Talking about Joey Belladonna, seeing him then. Was it one of those things where he was just trying to do like nothing but solo material, or did he throw in an Anthrax song or two?
You know what? I can't really remember. It's been so long ago. I do remember him doing like some cover tunes. I do remember him doing like a Journey song, and he was doing a lot of. He did mostly, I think, most of his solo stuff.
Oh, fun!
To be honest with you, but it was good. It was really good. I mean, Joey Belladonna is a great singer. I mean, he's a really good singer.
Yeah. So Joe, just to let people know before we wrap it up for tonight, we're going to get on a schedule where you and I are going to be doing a new show once every 2 weeks, and so in between that time, I want to urge people to check out our Facebook page. Every Monday, we're going to be posting a new episode. Next, I'm going to post next Monday. Next Monday, we're going to be posting the one we did tonight, which is on the latest Queensryche album, and then after that, we'll be posting our Marty Friedman episode we recently did. But thanks for doing the show tonight, Joe. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise, man. I look forward to doing these with you, brother.
Yeah, the last 2 times, I think we really knocked it out of the park with this one and then the previous one on the new Metallica album. So we're going to be doing a lot more of these type of shows. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. We love doing this. And we couldn't do it without the Metal King. Oh, that's what I want to say, Joe. You... I seen something where you were named like the top contributor. You are the true Metal King, top contributor to our This Is Metal Face page. So thanks for that.
Well, fantastic. Thanks for all the support, and I look forward to doing the next one.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.